So I told you that we need to talk about money. Now, money on Monday, makeup on Monday, but money is a very important discussion for us to have. Good morning. Good to have you back.
Thank you.
It's a very important discussion to have because I think a lot of us are constantly broke. Or we constantly feel broke. Or we constantly feel like we're trying to pay or just, there's just never enough money. But that's because we probably do not live within our means, okay? So that's what we need to talk about. That's what we need to talk about. So my guest in studio, Manyara Kirago, is here. He's been here before talking money matters and how, you know, we use money badly and we need to respect money because we clearly don't. Now, Manyara Kirago is one of the leading local experts on personal finance. He has authored several books, among them 7 Pillars of Financial Success. And today we talk about living within our means. And thank you so much for coming into the studio.
Thank you for having me.
So last time you came, you had your book. You had a couple of books.
Yes.
And you had a conference.
Yes.
How did it go?
Oh, it went very well. That was late October, to October 28th. And we had over 500 people attending. Wow. It went very well.
Yeah.
Yes.
But why is it that we don't know how to use money?
Well, it's just one of those skills that we need to learn. Nobody wakes up knowing how to do much. Yeah. And usually we are taught, we go through school and we learn. But when it comes to personal finances, there's no way we are taught these things. So, and that's why we have so many challenges.
That is true. Because there's just, you're always trying to, either you're overpaying for this or there's too much that's needed. Things are always needed. Why, Manyara?
Well, you see, human nature is such that your needs always tend to exceed, your needs and wants always tend to exceed your resources. But we can actually overcome that when it comes to our personal finances. First is by knowing the difference between your needs and your wants. Most of us say, I need this. And you may say that, for instance, I need a car. And that time, they're targeting a very expensive car. What they actually need is transportation. And a cheaper car or less expensive car would probably given in the same transportation. So we need to be to distinguish between our needs and our wants and make sure that that statement which you made first about living within our means, that's really basic, and it's true that we must live within our means if we are to get ahead financially. Otherwise, it will always be a struggle.
Do you think we confuse our needs and our wants based on maybe you want to impress people, or you feel like at this point in your life you should be driving this sort of car, you should be living in this sort of neighborhood, and then because of things and pressures like that, you then make it, you know, you tell yourself this is actually a need.
Very, very true. Yeah. Once again, you're very right that a lot of us, we succumb to peer pressure. And unfortunately, by succumbing to it, you make your situation even worse. But if you were to actually realize that you should do the right thing, and eventually you'll be able to achieve those things you want, it will be much better. You'll be much better off. Yes, because there are specific things you need to do in order to improve your financial situation, and we must learn this so that you can apply them in your life and be able to get where you need to be. Yeah. So
you believe that no matter how much your salary is, you can still make it to the end of the month without struggling? Well, obviously, there are some basics which, some basic income you need to survive. For instance, you need shelter, you need food, and if you're living below, if your salary is below the subsistence level, obviously, then I think, of course,
your focus should be more on how can I increase my income so that I can at least first survive. But for most people, it is possible to actually live within whatever they are earning and put away something so that they improve their future. And that's the key. You have to be able to put away something so that you can improve your future. Otherwise, even if you're working, what happens when you stop working? You'll be in a lot of trouble. You will be in a lot of trouble. And the thing with saving is that it's done before, not after. Actually, the approach should be, you should have a plan. And that plan is something so simple and straightforward, and most people, everybody knows it actually. It's a word they don't even like, and that's a budget. Most people don't like a budget because they think a budget removes all the fun from life.
It does.
It doesn't actually.
Constricts you.
That's the impression most people have because they don't have set a right budget in the first place. Now, how do you set a right budget? A budget that's appropriate for your situation. First of all, you should understand, where does your money go now? Most people have no clear idea where the money goes.
Yeah.
In fact, if you really want to be sure about where your money goes, you should, first of all, list down your expenses as you are spending money for at least a month, and you'll be shocked. You'll find that there are lots of places where you spend money and you'd never realize you spend that much. And that's the beginning of knowing your situation. Once you know where your money goes, then now you start setting, look at your goals and start adjusting your budget so that it fits more with your goals and your income.
Yeah, and the other thing is also, I think, your partner or the person who you're sharing your life with. If we have different money goals, then we will really never save anything, will we? That's
very true, that the people do have different money personalities. Some people are very risk averse, and some people do not worry about risk. And if you're together in a partnership, you need to reconcile and agree about how you're going to move forward. Otherwise, if each of you just does their own thing, unlikely that you will achieve much, even as a couple. Yes.
Yeah. Let's talk about tracking your expenses. How effective is that?
Tracking expenses is actually a prerequisite. Okay, there are two ways to approach it. You can either track your expenses by writing down as you're spending, or using an app like YNAB or envelopes, which you can download from the internet, and then record as you're spending. Now, that is a historical record of what you've already done, but it helps you now change your spending habits. So that's one way to do it. The other way is just to say, okay, I earn this much. For instance, I earn 30,000 shillings. I'm going to spend 20,000 shillings, and then just do it, just spend 20,000 shillings, no matter, and if the 20,000 shillings runs out, you stop spending. Now, that's what I call the lazy man's budget.
Yeah.
You just put a limit, and if that money finishes, you stop. That can be very traumatic because if the money gets finished mid-month and you don't have money for lunch, yeah, you can imagine how it will be. So that's the lazy man's budget. But the other one of actually setting specific amounts for each item, that one is more, it needs more work, but it's more effective.
Yeah. So there's also competition, which happens. It's part of life, and we do that. How do you sort of train yourself to stay in your own lane and, run your own race, so to speak? Does it go back to peer pressure, or is it the same thing?
It's the same thing. You're going back to peer pressure. And, well, you see, we all live in a society, and we cannot really isolate ourselves.
Yeah.
But we have to come to one realization, and that is, there's some causes of action. They say that actions have consequences. There are some causes of action which, if you follow, you should expect a certain end result. So, if you're here, maybe you've got you've got a nice job, you're earning a specific amount of money, and then you spend all of it in buying cars, nice lifestyle, nice clothes, and you don't invest. What will happen is eventually you will run into a brick wall because you can't work forever. And you probably you find it difficult to take your children to college when your children grow up there. So you have to face such realities and make your decision. And by the way, managing your money properly does not mean you don't enjoy life. It does not mean that, because that money for your fun time, that money for those nice clothes, that money for those nice shoes will be in that budget. But it will be within. It will be within your income. But if you just spend without making sure it's within your income, then you'll run into trouble.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you're going to make that list of needs and wants.
Yes.
So the shoes, do you really need them every single month?
You need shoes, definitely. You need shoes,
yeah,
but do you need them every month?
Or do you need new shoes every month? Maybe that should be the question.
That should be the question.
You need new clothes every month.
And again, by doing things without planning. A lot of us, okay, we have a budget, but then we don't follow it. It's totally a waste of time. We have a budget that when we meet a hawker selling shoes, we are there lining up to buy. We need to make sure we don't do things on impulse, buy things without a plan. There's nothing wrong with buying yourself a nice suit or nice phone, but have you planned for it? Because if you have not planned for it, that means something else will suffer. Even simple things like going to the supermarket. Yeah. I'm always amazed. I find families or couples in the supermarket just pushing a trolley and just loading without any shopping list in sight. Now, when you do that, you expose yourself to the wiles of the supermarket owner, because their goal is to make you spend as much as possible. And they have very brilliant ways of doing that. Even the way they set out the supermarket. Have you noticed that the milk is always at the back?
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people...
You have to buy milk.
Yeah, maybe that's all you went in to get. And bread.
But before you get there, you see a lot of other things, and then you say, oh, I needed this. You pick it up. And the chocolates, where are they?
They're right there.
At the till, right?
Yes.
And when you go there, there's a queue, and you're bored, you're looking around, and
that's what always happens to me. That's true.
What about this, the deli in the supermarket? If you go there hungry, and all these nice smells in the supermarket, and you'll end up in the deli there buying something.
True.
Yeah. So you got to know these things, and the way to defend yourself is to make sure that you have a shopping list which you follow, because there's so many temptations in the supermarket. So if you have a shopping list, first of all, not only will you know the trend of the prices, but you will also make sure that you buy everything that you need, so that you don't have to come back next week for more temptations. And remember, a lot of supermarkets offer special offers every so often, especially this period, which we are coming up to Christmas period. Special offer, save so much, save this much. Now, you might be going to the supermarket because they say you're going to save this much on this item, but all the other items, the prices are up. So have you done anything?
No, you haven't.
And then there's this other thing about saving, these special offers. You'll see so many adverts encouraging you to buy this, it's on special offer. And a lot of people fall for that. Now, the question is, had you planned to buy that particular item in the first place? So if you had not planned to buy it, are you really saving?
No,
it's spending.
For you, you're spending.
Yes.
Because you go there, then you see tissues on sale, you buy one milk, you don't even buy bread now, you go back home with like 5 rolls of tissue.
And then you have to come back.
Because it was buy one, get 3 free or something ridiculous. But there are just some offers you don't want to pass on, Mr. Manyara. That's how you feel like. All right, so we're talking about living within your means. If you have a question, do send it through on social media. The hashtag is K24 Alfajiri, 21222 on our SMS line. And if I'm blinking too much, I think it's because I have this gigantic lashes that they put on me. So I feel like I'm just really doing this the entire time. But we're talking about living within your means. And if they probably found me somewhere and they explained how effective these lashes are and how affordable they are because of what they do, I would have had to spend 1,500 shillings that I hadn't planned spending. You know what I mean? And I'm one of those people who go to the supermarkets with a shopping list, but you very rarely look at it. You're like, mimi najua Kenya ninahitaji kwa kichwa, hii ilikuwa tu guidance. So you walk through, you're like, I've always wanted to try this olive oil. I've always wanted to buy this. Life is too short. That's what I tell myself.
Well, you're not the only one.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what you can do in such a situation is you can give up something from another category and spend for that category which you want now. And then you have to realize that the other category is running out. And that's the whole idea behind the envelope system of budgeting. That's an old-style system of budgeting whereby what they used to do is when you get your salary, you buy envelopes. And then you put money for each item. This is for bus fare. This is for food in the house. This is for entertainment. This is for... And then when you want to spend money, say, on entertainment, when you want to go out with your friends, you go to that specific envelope, remove some money from there, and then go.
People do that?
No, that's the old style of doing it.
Oh, okay, okay. That's the old style,
of doing
all right.
So then and it was very effective because when that envelope gets finished, the money in that envelope gets finished, you stop going out. It was very effective. Now, in this, nowadays, we have done it now more digitally. What happens is you have an app such as YNAB or envelopes. In fact, that's where that envelopes come from.
Oh, app came from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You can get it at envelopes.com, or the other one is ynab.com.
NAB being NUB.
NAB.
Oh, NAB. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, it's short for why you need a budget. Yeah, ynab. So, and in that, in those apps, you put some specific money for different categories of expenditure, and then you discipline yourself so that when one category is finished, you either stop spending on that category, or you remove from other category and put in that category, which means that your overall spending amount remains the same. So you don't break that first rule, which everybody knows that you should not spend more than you earn.
That's true.
So if you do that, you'll be fine.
Yeah. But the other thing that we do is when that envelope gets finished is we now ask for someone else to give us a bit from their envelope, and then we end up getting in debt.
Yes.
This is before your next salary.
Yes, and that is one of the biggest pitfalls, that we start borrowing because we finished what we needed to spend, and that's how we end up spending more than we needed. And it's a trap, because if you borrow, for instance, you borrow from the phone, these phone loans.
The phone loans, yeah.
That means that at the end of the month you'll have to pay it back, which means that the next month you have less money. And not only do you have less money, the interest on those phone loans is extremely high.
They're not doing it to help you.
They're not doing it to
help you. It's a business.
It's business, and it's highly profitable business.
It's booming, yeah.
They will charge you something over 100% interest, because they will tell you it's 10% for that month, but 10% per month is 120% interest, annual interest.
So if I borrowed 10,000 shillings.
And then you pay at the end of the month 11,000, which means you've been charged an extremely high interest rate. Similarly, if you go to the Shylocks, you'll be charged a huge amount of money in interest, but they will mention it in monthly terms. So for you, it will not look that big. So if it's from the phone loans, it'll be something like 10%. 10% doesn't look that bad. You tell yourself, because banks are charging 14%, but banks are charging 14% per annum. So if you want to compare, you'll have to multiply that 10% by 12.
By 12.
So it's really expensive, and that now begins your slide down into financial difficulties. Yes, that's what happened. Now go think about the Shylock. Shylock, how much do they charge? Most of them about 30% per month. Translate.
That should be illegal. Should be illegal. It's too much money that they're making. Oh, wow.
It is really bad. And if you find yourself going that side, then you're not doing yourself any favor. You're actually making your life more difficult. And the solution is exactly what we've been talking about. Manage so that you spend less than you earn. Even if it means giving up, you will have to give up some things for most of us, because our income it cannot take care of all our needs and wants, just like we had said. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have to sort of write it down so that you can see it yourself.
Exactly.
Because, you know, another thing, I went for once in Nomi class, and a very good friend of the show called Waidaka, you know, kept saying how, you know, you never notice when you give even the watchman, you give him 50 bob, and then you go somewhere, and then you have to give someone 100 bob, and then you go somewhere else, and then in a day it's like 300, and it's not much. But when you calculate that at the end of the month, you spend maybe 8,000 alone on something frivolous that you know you don't need it. Exactly.
In fact, listen to me. Small leaks sink big ships, and that is why you need the track record of how you're spending your money, so that you can actually realize what you're doing. Most people lose much more money than they even think, and that's why we complain, oh, our money is not enough. And it's because we are spending without actually, we are not aware. Our level of awareness of our financial behavior is very low. We need to be aware. What am I doing? I'm being asked for 50 bob, but what does it mean? Do I have to give it? Okay, there are things which you may need to do that may not be directly relevant to your personal financial goals, like for instance, charity. But they also need to be put in your budget. For instance, if you have a dependent that you're dependents that you help out, maybe family members who are you need to help out, it should be in your budget. So if it's not in your budget, then you're not managing your finances properly, and you'll end up with challenges. Yeah. And like now, we're going up to the Christmas season. We should have already began planning for what we're going to spend on Christmas. Because too many of us reach that time, and then we find, we need to go to, some people go up country, some people go for parties, some people. Anyway, the expenditure, personal expenditure in Christmas season for most people is very high. And we need to be prepared for that. So we should be putting money aside, so come that time, we have the money.
Yeah.
If we don't do that, what will happen is we'll spend the money which we're supposed to be paying our bills at the end of December, and we'll have challenges with school fees, we'll have challenges with rent, we'll have such challenges. And it's just because we did not organize ourselves. So it is important to get a good income, yes, and to try and increase your income. But what's even more important is to manage whatever you're earning very well. Yes.
That is true. That is true. That's why a lot of people, what they do is they plan their Christmas and their January. So what they do is they make sure that they have their fees and their rent before they have their mbuzi choma.
Very, very right? Correct. Very good way of managing your finances. Yes.
It's a matter of prioritizing, which we don't do a lot. And another thing that we don't do is we don't try to cut on the expenses. Tukishafika mahali yenye maisha sasa imetupeleka bill zetu ni 80,000, hatutafuti venye inaweza kurudi chini hadi 50,000. We feel like now that, you know, we've grown in life, we've moved on up, we never look for a way to sort of take it down.
In fact, that's a very important thing that you've mentioned, because that should be an ongoing thing. Like, for instance, when we do our monthly shopping, are we actually going to the supermarket or wherever you're buying your groceries from? Are you going to the least expensive place? Are you doing it in the least expensive way? Because there's several ways you can reduce expenses, like buying in bulk. There's some things you know you're going to need the whole year. So if there is a way of you buying in bulk, yes, cheaper supermarkets, there are even wholesale supermarkets. If you know, for instance, you're going to use a specific item the whole year, why don't you buy in bulk and get the much cheaper rate?
If it's not perishable.
If it's not perishable. Can you pool with your friends and neighbors, maybe to buy things in bulk? If you cannot buy bulk on your own. There are several ways you can do that, but always keep a track on the expenditure. And that's one of the important things of the budget. Sorry, the shopping list. The shopping list, it enables you to actually see the trend of the prices, because you'll have put each item and the price and how many you're buying. So you have your shopping list total amount. So as you see it creeping up, you'll know this thing is becoming more expensive. But then you ask yourself, could I get a cheaper alternative? So we need to actually be aware. How are we approaching this? Because if we don't do that, we'll find that we are paying more, but not getting more value, which is actually not very good.
That's very true. Then you're constantly stressed, constantly out of it. You know, you just need to go and drink about it. You just need to go to the bar and think about this story.
Spending more money there?
Spending more money that you don't have. Because we all know that one person who we are all, you know, sort of earning the same salary, but then the lifestyle that they lead, you're like, how do you afford to be so lavish with your life, your house, your car? You know, a lot of them are loans, and then some of them then end up getting sponsori kwa sababu maisha manze bude imekuwa ni ngori. Anyway, thank you so much, Mr. Manyara.
Thank you,
I think we've, you know, the step one is to track your expenses. You know, have a budget, and if you don't have one, make sure that you get on one. Download that app that he talked about, Envelopes or YNAB. All right, why you need a budget, and let's all live within our means. My co-host Ian Mufula comes up at the top of the hour with Home Stretch. That's all for us. My name is Amina Abdurrabah. Thank you so much. And how can people buy your books?
From our website, financial-counseling.com.
All right, there you go. Thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed day. Bye.